Rick Harrison, the founder of the renowned gold and silver pawn shop featured on Pawn Stars, was once the face of success in the pawn business and reality TV. Yet, his once celebrated career took a shocking downfall after facing severe allegations and a lengthy legal battle. Amidst the toughest trials of his life, Rick found steadfast support from the Harrison family and devoted fans who stood by him unwaveringly. His story isn't just one of fame followed by hardship. It's a powerful reminder of how swiftly fate can shift under the spotlight of stardom. If you're a fan of Frank Fritz and want the latest updates on the mansion, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to hear your perspective. Some have even labeled it a crime, though many fans argue that the tension between the two pickers was just a tactic to increase TV ratings. Wolf was arrested and faced severe charges tied to a revenge killing driven by jealousy and greed. However, social media reports suggest that the initial charges against Wolf were reduced as new evidence came to light. One post even revealed that Wolf was apprehended after an American Pickers crew member guided him to Fritz's house following his death. The Iowa State Police carried out an extensive investigation and uncovered damning evidence, including Wolf's fingerprints on a pill bottle and suspicious text messages sent to Fritz, prompting them to pursue first-degree murder charges. The probe into Frank Fritz's death was initiated when the medical examiner identified discrepancies in his toxicology report. While the official cause of death was listed as complications from a stroke, the autopsy revealed alarmingly high levels of prescription medication in his system, far beyond what had been prescribed for his condition. This immediately raised alarms, particularly since Fritz had been diligent about following his medication regimen during his recovery. The Iowa State Police discreetly began an investigation, zeroing in on those who had access to Fritz in his final hours. And what they uncovered shocked even seasoned officers. Security footage from Fritz's neighborhood revealed Wolf's vehicle arriving at the house late at night, about 3 hours before emergency services were contacted. It was Wolf who made the 911 call, claiming he had visited his old friend and found him unresponsive. Paramedics arrived to find Fritz unresponsive, with no pulse, and all efforts to revive him were unsuccessful. He was pronounced dead at the scene. While initial reports pointed to complications from his previous stroke, the toxicology results painted a different picture. What truly raised investigators' suspicions was Wolf's behavior following Fritz's death. Rather than showing the expected signs of mourning, he swiftly moved to take control of Fritz's collection and intellectual property rights. Within 48 hours, Wolf reached out to Fritz's attorney about securing the rights to his name and likeness for future American Pickers merchandise. Production staff testimonies revealed that he also hurried to access Fritz's storage locations, which contained valuable antiques never featured on the show. Several crew members observed that Wolf appeared unusually focused on business and showed little emotion when discussing commercial matters right after Fritz's death. When detectives searched Wolf's home and office, they uncovered a hidden safe containing several unmarked pill bottles, which were later identified as the same type of medication found in Fritz's system. The most incriminating discovery was a journal found in Wolf's travel bag, where he had written extensively about his growing resentment toward Fritz. Some entries, dating back several years, used increasingly hostile language. In one entry, just weeks before Fritz's death, he wrote, "F thinks he can come back and steal half the spotlight again. He forgets that without me there wouldn't be a show." Throughout the 6-week trial, Wolf appeared shocked, sitting silently beside his attorneys as the prosecution revealed how he had meticulously planned Fritz's murder. The jury was presented with evidence showing that Wolf had researched untraceable poisons and methods to make the death appear natural. His internet search history exposed troubling queries like, "Can drug interactions from a stroke be detected after death?" And "How to make someone's death look like stroke complications." The prosecution argued that Wolf took advantage of Fritz's prior health issues, using them as a perfect cover for murder. Former American Pickers crew members testified about the disturbing shift in the relationship between Wolf and Fritz in the years before Fritz's departure from the show and his eventual death. One production assistant revealed that she overheard heated arguments between the two about the show's future, with Wolf demanding full creative control. He told Fritz that, due to his health problems, he no longer deserved equal pay. The assistant testified that multiple witnesses described Wolf becoming increasingly controlling, frequently speaking ill of Fritz to network executives and isolating him from longtime friends in the antiques community. Perhaps the most emotional testimony came from Danielle Kabie, who tearfully testified for the prosecution. Struggling to hold back tears, she described confronting Wolf about his behavior toward Fritz. "I noticed Mike had become obsessed with being the only face of American Pickers." She went on to testify, "When I asked him about reconciling with Frank, he became defensive and angrily told me to stop interfering in things that weren't my business." KBY recounted finding troubling notes in Wolf's office regarding Fritz's medication schedule and questioning Wolf, who claimed he was simply worried about Frank's health. The defense attempted to portray their relationship as a misunderstood friendship, suggesting that Wolf had genuinely tried to reconcile with Fritz before his death. They called network executives to testify about public statements supporting Fritz's recovery. However, this theory was shattered by testimony from Fritz's personal doctor, who confirmed that while Fritz was concerned about his health, he remained optimistic about his recovery and had plans to start his own antique business. The doctor also confirmed that he had never prescribed the types of medications found in Fritz's system, especially not at such dangerously high doses. During cross-examination, Wolf's calm facade began to crack when directly confronted about whether he had given Fritz the drugs. He snapped at the prosecutor, "You don't understand what it's like to build something from nothing and watch someone else take the credit while everyone thinks he was just as important to the success of the show." His outburst prompted his defense team to request a recess, but the damage had already been done. The jury later revealed that this moment was pivotal in their deliberations, as it exposed the deep anger Wolf had been harboring for years after Fritz left the show. The financial motive became evident when forensic accountants testified about suspicious changes in Wolf's business structure in the months leading up to Fritz's death. Wolf had quietly restructured his companies to seize control of Fritz's intellectual property in the event that he became incapacitated or passed away. Additionally, he had purchased a business insurance policy for Fritz, making his company the beneficiary of a $5 million payout. Prosecutors also revealed that Wolf had established several shell companies that Fritz was unaware of and had transferred valuable antiques into these entities, with a total worth exceeding $2 million. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict, and the judge sentenced Wolf to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That was when everything completely unraveled. Wolf, who had kept a calm demeanor throughout the trial, suddenly leaped up, shouting, "You don't understand. He was going to destroy everything. He was going to destroy my legacy." He charged across the defense table, knocking papers and water cups flying. The bailiffs rushed toward him, but Wolf charged at Fritz's family, swinging his arms wildly before they could subdue him. The courtroom erupted into chaos as people screamed and rushed toward the exits, while Wolf broke free once again. This time he grabbed an antique walking cane, which had been entered as evidence, and swung it like a weapon. He struck one of the bailiffs in the shoulder. "I built the American lifts. That's my life's work," he yelled as 3 other officers struggled to restrain him. He was eventually forced to the ground, and the judge was escorted out of the courtroom while Wolf continued to fight back, kicking and shouting about betrayal as the officers attempted to control him. Fritz's sister, who was present at the sentencing, had to be escorted out by security as Wolf tried to charge toward her. "I deserve this," he yelled. "It was my show," as they finally handcuffed him. The most shocking moment came when Wolf locked eyes with Danielle Colby, who was sitting in the gallery, and shouted, "Tell them the truth. Tell them what Frank was really like." Colby turned away, her face contorted with anguish, while other crew members began to cry. The American Pickers family had been torn apart by the trial, with some supporting Wolf and others testifying for the prosecution. Court documents revealed that Wolf had been turning members of the crew against Fritz in the years leading up to his death, deepening a rift within the production team that may never heal. As security struggled to control Wolf, he continued his outbursts, shouting even more shocking revelations. "He was going to start his own show," he screamed. "He told me I was outdated and the network wanted him back." Journalists in the courtroom described the scene as surreal, with at least 3 people injured, including Wolf's defense attorney, who was struck by a flying water bottle. Even as they dragged him out of the courtroom, Wolf continued shouting about betrayal and his legacy, insisting that Fritz had plotted to ruin him. Legal experts later commented that his outburst had effectively destroyed any chance of a successful appeal, as it directly contradicted his defense team's claim that he was a misunderstood businessman incapable of violence. After the courtroom incident, former friends and colleagues of Wolf shared stories that painted a clearer picture of his character. Former American Pickers producer Thomas Reynolds recalled several instances where Wolf would fly into rages backstage whenever things didn't go his way. "He kept up the perfect down-to-earth image in front of the cameras," Reynolds said. "But off-camera, he could become terrifying, especially to the lower-level staff. When the cameras stopped rolling, his entire demeanor would change." Others described him becoming increasingly paranoid in recent years, convinced that Fritz was secretly planning a return to television with a competing show. The case sent shockwaves through the reality TV community. American Pickers, which had reached millions of viewers worldwide, now faced an uncertain future. The History Channel canceled all episodes featuring Wolf and issued a statement expressing shock and sympathy for the Fritz family. Several major sponsors withdrew their support, leaving the future of the show in jeopardy. The Fritz family filed a lawsuit to gain control of Fritz's antique collection and intellectual property, vowing to honor his legacy while pursuing legal action against the network for allowing Wolf's increasingly erratic behavior. Mental health experts weighed in on the case, suggesting that years of being in the spotlight may have exacerbated Wolf's narcissistic personality disorder, making his behavior even more volatile. Dr. Robert Keller, a forensic psychologist who had been following the trial, explained, "While this doesn't excuse his actions, it helps explain the discrepancy between his public persona and his private behavior. Narcissistic individuals can appear charming and composed while secretly harboring deep resentment and plotting revenge." Fritz's departure from the show would have been a significant narcissistic injury for Wolf, one that could have simmered for years, ultimately fueling his destructive actions. Perhaps the most troubling aspect was how Wolf exploited his platform as a television personality to manipulate the public's perception. In the weeks following Fritz's death, he took to social media, tearfully attributing Fritz's passing to complications from a stroke, while seizing the opportunity to promote special merchandise in his memory. "This isn't just a murder," prosecutor Sarah Donovan stated in her closing argument. "This is a calculated deception of millions of viewers who trusted him, who mourned alongside a man who killed his former partner." Investigators discovered that over $1 million had been donated in the weeks following Fritz's death, with most of the funds funneled into accounts that only Wolf had access to. As Mike Wolf began serving his life sentence, viewers and former supporters struggled to reconcile the public image of a passionate antiques collector with the harsh reality of a man capable of murder and violence in court. Many people expressed feeling betrayed not only by Wolf's actions, but also by years of deception, said longtime American Pickers viewer Robert Jenkins. "We trusted his down-to-earth charm and passion for preservation, only to find out it was all a facade that was unraveling." Television personalities who once appeared alongside Wolf quickly distanced themselves, issuing statements of shock and calling for respect for Fritz's memory. For the American Pickers crew, the tragedy lingered. Their testimonies during the trial revealed a deeply divided production team, with some still believing in Wolf's innocence, while others were firmly convinced of his guilt. Danielle Kabay, who testified for the prosecution, took a leave of absence from television, citing the need to heal and reflect. In a brief statement, she requested privacy and expressed hope that the legacy of antique preservation, which had originally brought them all together, could somehow endure despite these tragic circumstances. Other crew members largely stayed out of the public eye, grappling with the double trauma of losing Fritz and witnessing Wolf's conviction for murder. The judge's final remarks before Wolf erupted in fury seemed especially prophetic. "Now, Mr. Wolf," he said, "you presented yourself as a champion of history and preservation in the United States, all while harboring thoughts of revenge and murder. You used your platform to preach the values of the past while planning the death of the man who helped build that very foundation. Justice is being served, not only for Frank Fritz, but for the millions of viewers who trusted him." At that moment, Wolf lunged across the table, starting a violent outburst that would mark his final public appearance before being taken away to spend the rest of his life behind bars. "Tell me to do something for God and country, and then go back and do it. That's a good thing," he shouted. "Right there, I'll take it from you." This was shocking news for Pawn Stars fans when rumors began circulating that Richard Kevin Harrison, better known as Rick Harrison, had been sentenced to life in prison. If this story has sparked your curiosity, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos. Don't forget to share with your friends and family so you can explore these surprising stories together. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Rick, known for his no-nonsense approach to business and his vast knowledge on Pawn Stars, suddenly found himself facing serious legal trouble, something no one had ever seen coming. The show had captivated viewers with its deep dive into the world of pawn shops, tough negotiations, and the daily drama inside Rick Harrison's iconic pawn shop in Las Vegas. However, Rick's once thriving television career took an unexpected and dark turn. But what exactly did he do to deserve such a harsh punishment? Stay with us as we uncover the events that led to this major turning point in Rick's life and the shocking details of this case. Richard Kevin Harrison, a well-known American entrepreneur and television personality, was born on March 22, 1965 in Lexington, North Carolina. At just 2 years old, he moved to San Diego, California with his family, where he spent the majority of his childhood. As a young boy, Rick was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 8, which caused him to spend much of his childhood immersed in books, helping him build the impressive historical knowledge that would later fuel his career. Rick's childhood was far from easy. His struggle with epilepsy led to frequent absences from school, and he eventually dropped out in his sophomore year of high school. However, this setback never dampened his ambition or his thirst for knowledge. Instead, Rick focused on self-education, devouring books on a wide range of topics, particularly history and business. This self-taught approach became evident in the encyclopedic knowledge he showcased on Pawn Stars. During his teenage years, Rick started working alongside his father on various business ventures. It was during this time that he honed his sharp eye for value and authentication, skills that would prove invaluable in his future career. At the age of 17, Rick's girlfriend, Kim, became pregnant, leading the young couple to marry. They eventually had 2 sons, Corey and Adam, before divorcing after 8 years of marriage. In 1981, Rick's family moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, where his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, known as the Old Man, opened the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. This shop would later serve as the backdrop for Pawn Stars decades later. The transition from a coin shop to a pawn shop was a strategic decision, as the Harrisons recognized the greater profit potential in the pawn business. The early years were tough, with Rick and his father working long hours to establish their reputation in Las Vegas. Rick often found himself facing difficult customers and sometimes dangerous situations. These challenges helped him sharpen his negotiating skills, which would become essential in his future success. By the early 2000s, Rick had become a well-known figure in Las Vegas for his expertise in collectibles and historical items. The pawn shop had earned a reputation as a place where unique and valuable treasures could be found, drawing both locals and tourists. Recognizing the entertainment potential of his business, Rick began pitching the idea of a reality television show based on the daily operations of the pawn shop. After years of rejections and relentless efforts, Rick finally secured a deal with the History Channel. In 2009, Pawn Stars began airing, offering a glimpse into the daily operations of the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. The show featured Rick, his son Corey, his father Richard Old Man Harrison, and their friend Austin Chumley Russell as they appraised items bought and sold, often with historical significance or questionable value. The show became an instant success, transforming Rick from a local pawn shop owner into a television star. His catchphrases, straightforward manner, and extensive knowledge of historical artifacts quickly made him a fan favorite. Rick's signature line, "The best I can do is," became iconic as he negotiated with customers looking to sell their treasures. What set Pawn Stars apart from other reality TV shows was its educational aspect, which Rick highlighted in every episode, offering viewers fascinating insights into history and the value of rare items. Each episode provided historical insights about the items brought into the shop, with Rick frequently offering context and details that highlighted his extensive knowledge. This approach resonated with many viewers, helping the show become one of the most successful programs on the History Channel. Under Rick's leadership, the pawn shop expanded its operations, drawing tourists from all over the world who hoped for a chance to see the stars or even appear on an episode. Sales of merchandise skyrocketed, and Rick leveraged his newfound fame by writing books, making public appearances, and even opening a restaurant. The success of Pawn Stars propelled Rick to new levels of fame. He appeared on numerous talk shows, was featured in magazines, and became a sought-after speaker at business events. His rags-to-riches story resonated deeply with many Americans, inspiring those who admired his entrepreneurial journey. Rick's straightforward business advice has earned him respect well beyond the entertainment industry. As the face of Pawn Stars, he is known for his sharp business acumen and no-nonsense approach. He often serves as the voice of reason on the show, reining in the ambitious purchases of his son, Corey, or the occasional antics of Chumley. His relationship with his father, the old man, reflects a deep mutual respect built over years of working side by side in the pawn shop. When his father passed away in 2018, Rick demonstrated his commitment to honoring his legacy by continuing to run the business with the same principles. Rick's personal life during the height of Pawn Stars fame had its ups and downs. After his first marriage ended, he married Tracy Harrison, and they were together for 27 years before divorcing in 2011. In 2013, Rick married Deanna Burdick in a ceremony officiated by his Counting Cars co-star, Danny Coker. With Chumley as the ring-bearer, Rick's family life has largely remained private, though it is occasionally mentioned on the show, revealing a man deeply devoted to his family despite the pressures of fame and business. Rick has expanded his business ventures beyond the pawn shop, including Rick's Roland Smoke BBQ and a tavern at Pawn Plaza, located next to the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. He also co-authored the 2011 book Licensed to Pawn, Deals, Steals, and My Life at the Gold and Silver, which provides insights into his life and business philosophy. Always a businessman, Rick is constantly on the lookout for new opportunities to grow his brand and expand his business empire. Throughout his career, he's demonstrated a remarkable ability to spot value where others might overlook it on Pawn Stars. Viewers watch as Rick evaluates items ranging from historical documents to classic cars, ancient artifacts to modern collectibles. His expertise seems boundless, although he's quick to call in specialists when items fall outside his knowledge base, reflecting the caution of a businessman who knows the limits of his expertise. Over the years, Rick has bought and sold countless items on the show, some of which were fantastic deals, while others didn't turn out as well. Rick's expertise in watches, weapons, and U.S. historical items often leads to successful deals. One of his most famous purchases was a 2001 New England Patriots Super Bowl ring, which he bought for $2,600 and was later valued at much higher. Another standout acquisition was a collection of Spanish gold doubloons recovered from a 1715 shipwreck, highlighting his passion for both history and valuable precious metals. However, Rick's life hasn't been without its challenges, many of which stem from the honest choices he has made throughout his career. In 2023, Rick's legal troubles began when federal agents raided his home in Las Vegas as part of an investigation that had been ongoing for several months. Initially, the public was not informed about the nature of the investigation, sparking widespread speculation online. The raid shocked not only fans but also those close to Rick. FBI agents, along with IRS investigators and representatives from the Bureau of Cultural Heritage Protection, executed search warrants at both Rick's home and the premises of his staff and customers at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. Present during the raid at the shop, everyone was temporarily detained as agents confiscated computers, documents, and several items from the store's inventory. Rick's son, Corey, who was at the shop during the raid, later described the scene as surreal. likening it to something straight out of a movie. According to witnesses, Rick remained remarkably calm as agents escorted him out of his home, maintaining his composure even as neighbors quickly captured the moment on their mobile phones. As details slowly emerged, it became clear that authorities were investigating allegations of a sophisticated tax evasion scheme and money laundering activities involving high-value items passing through the pawn shop, as well as complaints about the trade of illegally obtained artifacts. The investigation appeared to be triggered by suspicious transactions flagged by financial institutions and complaints from former business partners. In the weeks following the raid, the History Channel paused production of Pawn Stars and issued a brief statement saying they were monitoring the situation and would make an appropriate decision once more information became available. The gold and silver pawn shop remained open, though with significantly fewer customers due to the legal cloud hanging over Rick, which began to affect the business. Initially, Rick's representatives strongly denied any wrongdoing, labeling the investigation as a misunderstanding that would soon be resolved. His attorney, David Marshall, a well-known Las Vegas lawyer who had represented several celebrities, reassured the public that Rick had always operated his business with integrity and had fully complied with all applicable laws. However, as the investigation progressed, troubling details began to emerge. Authorities claimed they had found evidence suggesting that Rick had been involved in a complex scheme to undervalue certain historical artifacts for tax purposes while selling them through private channels at their true market value. Additionally, investigators accused Rick of intentionally purchasing stolen historical items through intermediaries, including documents of significant historical importance and artifacts belonging to museums and private collections. According to court documents later made public, the investigation was partially triggered by a former employee who had worked closely with Rick in acquiring several high-value items. The whistleblower provided authorities with detailed information about a separate accounting system that was allegedly maintained for transactions Rick wanted to keep off the official records. Rick was arrested but released on bail the following day and was scheduled to appear in court a few days later, facing multiple serious charges, including tax evasion, money laundering, trafficking in stolen property, and conspiring to traffic in illegally obtained cultural artifacts. Rick's attorney, David Marshall, confirmed that Rick vehemently denied all allegations and intended to fight the charges in court. The legal battle stretched on for nearly a year, with Rick maintaining his innocence throughout the proceedings. However, as evidence was presented and former associates testified against him, his position became increasingly precarious. The prosecution presented financial records, encrypted messages, and testimonies from former employees who claimed that Rick had instructed them to alter documents related to certain high-value items. They also presented evidence showing that Rick had set up offshore accounts to hide profits from special high-value transactions. A particularly damning piece of evidence was a series of text messages between Rick and an unidentified supplier discussing how to clean the origin of an 18th century document that was allegedly stolen from a university archive. In another exchange, Rick was accused of discussing how to structure a sales deal to avoid triggering reporting requirements for large cash transactions. Throughout the pretrial proceedings, Rick's public persona remained largely unchanged. He made several appearances on conservative talk shows, asserting that he was being targeted because of his political views and his success. His supporters rallied around him, creating hashtags like #FreeRick and organizing protests outside the courthouse during hearings. However, Rick hit a low point when he violated the law, shocking many who had always viewed him as an upstanding businessman. However, this revealed a much more calculating side of Rick than many had expected. His legal troubles exposed another facet of his character, and the surprises didn't stop there. While many quickly judged Rick based on media reports, it's important to remember that everyone deserves compassion during their toughest times. Many loyal followers created support groups on social media, emphasizing that despite the allegations, Rick's positive impact on their lives through his educational approach on Pawn Stars still deserved recognition. Rick taught me to love history in a way that school never could, one supporter wrote. Now it's our turn to show him that we haven't forgotten the good things he's done. If Rick's work has touched you over the years, consider joining these online support communities. The courtroom fell silent as the verdict was read. Rick, who had remained calm throughout the trial, sat with his son Corey behind him, looking pale and holding his head in his hands. Chumley, who had attended every day of the trial to support his mentor, quickly left the courtroom, visibly emotional. The verdict shocked legal experts, many of whom felt the sentence was disproportionate to the crime committed. However, the judge emphasized that the sentence not only reflected the financial crimes, but also the irreparable harm done to historical and cultural heritage through Rick's involvement in trafficking stolen artifacts. Rick had introduced himself to the American public as a protector of history, someone who valued the stories behind objects and recognized their importance to our shared heritage. However, the judge stated during sentencing that, in reality, Rick had engaged in the looting and systematic destruction of irreplaceable cultural monuments for personal gain. The court could not overlook the severity of such actions, and his sentence reflected this. In the days following the sentencing, Rick's legal team promptly filed an appeal, arguing that the punishment was excessive and unconstitutional, given the non-violent nature of the crime. They also requested that Rick be granted bail while awaiting his appeal, but this request was denied. Images of Rick being handcuffed quickly dominated the news and social media. Rick's sentence and conviction sparked mixed reactions. Many longtime fans expressed skepticism, suggesting that there may have been a miscarriage of justice. However, those in the academic and cultural heritage communities welcomed the harsh sentence, seeing it as a necessary deterrent against the trafficking of looted artifacts. Rick's case ignited an extraordinary wave of support among his fan base. The Hearts for Harrison campaign collected more than 100,000 signatures, demanding a re-evaluation of his sentence. Advocates pointed out the unfairness of his punishment in comparison to similar cases. Melissa Jenkins, the campaign leader, clarified, "We're not arguing that he shouldn't be held accountable if he broke the law. We're arguing that a life sentence for nonviolent crimes doesn't serve justice." "We're asking for a second chance," she added. "A life like his shouldn't end behind bars." Supporters urged others to sign the petition or contribute to Rick's legal defense fund, convinced that even small donations could provide the crucial support needed for a successful appeal. Rick's son, Corey Harrison, expressed, "My dad made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to die in prison. He deserves the chance to make things right." This case has sent shockwaves through the reality TV world, and the Harrison family business is fighting to stay afloat without its beloved leader during these trying times. Rick Harrison needs all the support he can get. If you're a fan of Pawn Stars and recognize the impact Rick has had on television over the years, consider sending your thoughts, prayers, and encouraging words his way. The Harrison family has created a website where supporters can leave messages. Your kind words could truly make a difference during this challenging chapter of his life. The website also provides the address for sending support letters. For the Harrison family, hearing from fans has been a vital source of strength for Rick during this difficult period. Rick has always valued the Pawn Stars viewers more than ever, knowing that you continue to stand by him, the family shared in a statement. Messages of encouragement and support from fans offer immense comfort to Rick. Just as his devoted supporters have rallied behind him, the family has emphasized that this connection serves as a powerful motivator for Rick to face and overcome these challenges. Rick's supporters have not only offered emotional support, but have also helped him regain his strength during his toughest moments. It means a lot to him, the Harrison family expressed. In this challenging situation, the preservation of cultural and historical heritage has never been more crucial. We must confront past mistakes while also reassessing how we treat valuable artifacts, true testaments to history. Therefore, it's essential to call on authorities, including the FBI, to ensure these artifacts are handled correctly and legally protected moving forward. Every action we take today shapes the future of these legacies. Let's continue to build unity and support, not just for the individuals involved, but for the entire community of history lovers and cultural preservation advocates. Your involvement, whether big or small, can help create a fair society that values heritage and educates future generations. Together, we have the power to make a meaningful change.